The night sky erupted with a streak of light, tearing through the darkness above Jay's small countryside home. He stood on his porch, coffee in hand, watching what he first thought was a meteor. But meteors didn't change direction. This light zigzagged, descended rapidly, then disappeared behind the tree line with a thunderous crash that shook the ground beneath his feet. Jay set his mug down, grabbed his emergency medical kit out of habit, and headed into the woods. As a paramedic for the small rural community, his instincts took over. What if someone was hurt? The forest path was illuminated only by his flashlight as he followed the trail of broken branches and disturbed earth. The smell hit him first, hot metal and something like ozone. Then his light caught the reflection of something that didn't belong in the forest. Something metallic and smooth with strange markings etched into its surface. Steam rose from the object half buried in the soft earth. "Hello," Joe called, circling the object cautiously. "Is anyone there?" It wasn't like any aircraft he recognized. Too small for a plane, too sleek for a helicopter, and shaped like a teardrop with wings that now lay broken around it. A spacecraft. Jai shook his head, dismissing the thought as ridiculous, yet unable to find a better explanation. A section of the craft's surface suddenly slid open with a hiss. Joey jumped back, heart pounding. Inside, bathed in dim blue light, lay a figure, a woman, or at least something that looked remarkably like a woman, except for her skin. Even in the poor light, he could see it was a deep blue color with silvery patterns running along her arms and face. Blood seeped from multiple wounds on her body. Purple blood. The strange woman's eyes fluttered open for a moment, revealing irises the color of amethyst surrounded by solid black. She made a sound, a word perhaps, in a language unlike any Jay had heard, before her eyes rolled back and she lost consciousness. Jay hesitated only briefly. Whatever she was, she needed medical attention. He checked her pulse, faster than a human's but strong, and carefully assessed her injuries. A deep gash across her abdomen looked most serious. He applied pressure bandages from his kit, noticing how her blood seemed thicker than human blood, almost gel-like. "I'm going to help you," he said, even though she couldn't hear him. "But I can't do it here." Getting her out of the craft proved challenging. She was heavier than she looked, and Jay struggled to carry her back to his house. The journey seemed to take forever, each step careful to avoid jostling her wounds. Inside his home, Jay cleared his dining table and laid her down. Under the bright kitchen lights, her alienness became even more apparent. Her blue skin had a subtle shimmer to it. The markings he'd noticed earlier appeared to be natural, like a tiger's stripes. Her ears tapered to slight points, and her fingers had an extra joint. "What are you?" Jay whispered, cutting away the strange fabric of her clothing to better access her wounds. He worked methodically, cleaning and stitching the gash in her abdomen, setting what appeared to be a broken bone in her arm, applying antiseptic to numerous smaller cuts. Her anatomy was remarkably human-like, yet with subtle differences. Denser muscle tissue, a slightly different arrangement of organs that he could feel through palpation. Hours passed as Jay worked. Dawn was breaking when he finally finished, washing purple blood from his hands in the kitchen sink. He'd moved her to his bed, covered her with blankets, and set up an IV with fluids, hoping her system wasn't too different from a human's. Jay sat in a chair beside the bed, watching her breathe. What had he gotten himself into? Should he call someone? The police? The military? Some secret government agency? He pictured men in hazmat suits storming his house, taking her away to be studied in some lab. No. For now, she was his patient, his responsibility. 3 days passed. The alien woman remained unconscious, though her vital signs seemed to stabilize. Jay called in sick to work, claiming a bad flu. He changed her bandages, monitored her condition, and searched the woods for anything useful from her craft. On the third evening, as Jay dozed in the chair beside her, a sound woke him. Her eyes were open, alert and focused directly on him. In one fluid motion, Despite her injuries, she grabbed his wrist with surprising strength. "Where am I?" she demanded in perfect, albeit strangely accented, English. Jay stared, speechless for a moment. "You speak English?" She touched a small device at her throat that he hadn't noticed before. Universal translator, damaged but functional. "Answer my question. You're in my home. I found you crashed in the woods. I'm a paramedic, someone who helps injured people." Her grip loosened slightly. "Why help me? I am not of your kind. You were hurt. That's all that mattered." She studied him intently, her unusual eyes narrowing. "Humans are not known to us as healers. You are considered primitive, violent." "We can be," Jay admitted, "but not always. What's your name?" She hesitated, then replied, "In your language. The closest would be Nari." "I'm Ja. Are there others like you coming? Is that good or bad for us?" Nari's expression darkened. "Those who follow are not my people. They are why I crashed. They will not show your world the mercy you have shown me." Jay felt a chill run down his spine. "So we're in danger." "I am in danger," Nari corrected. "But yes, if they find me here." She tried to sit up, wincing with pain. "Easy." Jay guided her back down. "You need to rest. Your wounds are severe. You don't understand. They tracked my ship here. They will come to finish what they started. I need to leave before they find me." Despite her words, exhaustion was clearly taking its toll. "You can barely stand," Jay said firmly. "Whatever's coming, we'll deal with it when you're stronger." Nari looked at him with confusion. "Why would you risk yourself for me?" Jay shrugged. "The same reason I helped you in the first place. It's just what people do. What they should do, anyway." As darkness fell outside, Nari finally relented to her body's need for rest. But before she drifted off, she looked at Ja with new respect. "I owe you my life, human," she whispered. "Among my people, such a debt is sacred." Jay didn't know what to say to that, so he simply nodded. As Nari slept, he went to the window and looked up at the night sky, wondering what exactly was heading their way, and how long they had before it arrived. Nari recovered slowly over the next week. Her alien physiology healed faster than a human's, but her injuries had been severe. Each day she grew stronger, and with strength came curiosity. She watched Ja constantly, studying his routines with intense interest. "Your dwelling is primitive," she observed one morning as Jay made breakfast. "Yet functional." Jay laughed. "Thanks, I think. It was my grandfather's house." "Grandfather?" Nari tested the word. "A male parent of your parent." "Yes. Family is important to humans." Jai placed a plate of scrambled eggs in front of her. Nari had discovered she could eat most human foods, though she found them bland. "Among my people, the Tal, we do not maintain family connections after training age." She poked at the eggs. "Young are raised in education centers, then assigned positions based on ability." "That sounds lonely," Jay said. Nari looked surprised. "I have never considered it so. It is efficient." After breakfast, Nari insisted on going outside. Her blue skin seemed to brighten in the sunlight, the silver markings along her arms and face shimmering. She walked the perimeter of Jay's property with a soldier's assessment. "Your world has much open space," she noted. "On my world, Talora, cities cover most land masses. Only warriors visit the wilderness areas." "And you're a warrior?" Jay asked, following her. "A commander," she corrected. "I lead battle squadrons against the Mach." "They are." She searched for words, her translator device at her throat pulsing. "Expansionists. They consume resources of many worlds." "And they're the ones who shot you down." Nari nodded grimly. "My scout ship discovered their approach to this sector. They attacked before I could warn my fleet." That evening, rain fell heavily. Nari stood by the window, watching lightning flash across the sky with childlike wonder. "Water falls freely from your atmosphere," she marveled. "On Talora, water is strictly regulated. Only the highest castes may use it for pleasure. That's sad, Jay said. Here, we complain when it rains. Your species takes much for granted. The power went out during the storm. Ja lit candles, and Neri stared at the flames with fascination. Open flame inside dwellings, she murmured. So dangerous, yet beautiful. Sometimes the most beautiful things are a little dangerous, Jay replied, noticing how the candlelight reflected in her unusual eyes. Neri helped Jai prepare dinner, asking endless questions about each ingredient. She was particularly fascinated by the concept of spices. You add substances to food solely for pleasure, not nutrition, she asked incredulously. Food should be enjoyed, not just consumed, Jay explained, showing her how to taste test the stew he was making. Neri's face lit up at the flavor. This is remarkable. Tal nutrition is efficient, but identical each day. Efficiency isn't everything, Jay said. Sometimes the inefficient path leads to better places. Later, they sat on the porch, listening to the rain. Neri had borrowed some of Jay's clothes, the sleeves rolled up to accommodate her taller frame. The sight of the fierce alien warrior in his old flannel shirt made Jai smile. Your facial expression has changed, Neri observed. This indicates amusement. I'm just thinking how strange this all is, Jay admitted. A week ago, my biggest worry was being late for work. Now I'm sharing my house with an alien warrior. Is my presence unwelcome? No, not at all. Just unexpected. Jode paused. What will you do when you're fully healed? Neri grew serious. I must warn my people about the mock. They will not stop with my ship if they detected valuable resources here. They'll come for Earth, Jay finished. Yes, your world has little defense against their technology. The next day, Jay took Neri into town, disguised in his clothes with a hat pulled low and sunglasses to hide her unusual eyes. Her blue skin could pass for an unusual skin condition from a distance. The small town's simple grocery store overwhelmed Neri. She stared at the variety of foods, touching packages with awe. So many choices, she whispered. How do you decide? Usually by what I'm in the mood for, Jay explained, selecting vegetables. An elderly woman smiled at them in the checkout line. You two make a lovely couple, she said. Before Jay could correct her, Neri spoke. Thank you. Jay has been teaching me about human customs. Her formal tone made the woman chuckle. She's from overseas, Jay added quickly. First time in the country. Walking home, Neri questioned him. What is a couple? My translator gave multiple meanings. Jay felt his face warm. She thought we were romantically involved. Ah. Neri nodded. Like mating partners. Well, not exactly. Jay stumbled over his words. It's more complicated than that. Explain. Humans usually form emotional bonds before physical ones. We call it falling in love. Jay felt awkward discussing this. It's not just about reproduction. Neri considered this. The Tal mate for genetic optimization. Emotional attachment is discouraged as inefficient. That sounds clinical. It is pragmatic, Neri replied. Yet I find myself curious about your way. That night, they watched an old movie on Jay's laptop. Neri was fascinated by the story, asking questions throughout. Your species creates elaborate falsehoods for entertainment, she observed. We have nothing similar. We call it art, Jay explained. It helps us understand ourselves better. Inefficient, yet. Neri searched for the word. Meaningful. As days passed, Neri began helping around the house. She fixed Jay's leaky faucet with surprising skill, explaining that tall children learned basic engineering early. One evening, Neri showed Jai fighting techniques from her world. Her movements were graceful despite her still healing wounds. She guided Jay's hands into proper positions, her touch careful but confident. You learn quickly for a human, she noted, standing close behind him to adjust his stance. I had a good teacher, Jay replied, suddenly aware of her proximity. That night, They sat under the stars. Nari pointed to a faint cluster barely visible to the naked eye. There, my home system, nearly 40 of your light years distant. Do you miss it? Jai asked. Nari was quiet for a long moment. I miss its familiarity. But my life there was predictable. Here, each day brings new experiences. Like what? Yesterday I tasted chocolate for the first time. Her serious expression broke into a rare smile. I have never known such flavor existed in the universe. Jay laughed. Wait until you try ice cream. As they watched shooting stars cross the sky, Nari's expression suddenly changed. She stood abruptly, eyes fixed on a particular point in the heavens. What is it? Jai asked, alarmed. A disturbance in orbit, she said quietly. The Mach have arrived. The next morning dawned bright and clear, but Nari's mood remained dark. She paced the length of Jay's small living room, stopping occasionally to peer through the windows at the sky. They will send scouts first, she explained, her voice tense. The Mach never commit their main forces until they have assessed potential resistance. Jay watched her with growing concern. How much time do we have? A day. Perhaps 2. Nari touched the healing wound on her side. We must leave this place. Your dwelling will be their first target. They packed quickly. Jay threw clothes, food, and medical supplies into his old hiking backpack. Nari salvaged parts from her crashed ship, a small communication device, her weapon, and a metallic object she described as a signature masker that might hide them from Mach scanners. Where will we go? Jai asked, loading supplies into his truck. Nari pointed to the mountains visible in the distance. High elevation, rocky terrain. It will limit their sensor effectiveness and provide defensive positions. As they prepared to leave, Nari suddenly placed her hand on Jay's chest, stopping him. I must be clear about what follows, she said, her purple eyes intense. The Mach are not simply seeking me. I carried critical tactical information. If they capture me, many worlds will fall, including yours. Then they won't capture you, Jay said with more confidence. They sprinted through the trees as 3 figures emerged from the smoke behind them. Even at a distance, Jay could tell they weren't human. Taller than Nari, with gray skin and elongated limbs, they moved with mechanical precision. Each carried a weapon that glowed with ominous red energy. One of the Mach raised its weapon. A red beam cut through the forest, slicing trees like paper. It missed Jai by inches, the heat searing his cheek as it passed. Nari pushed him behind a large boulder, then whirled to face their pursuers. Her weapon hummed to life, blue energy crackling along her arm. Stay down, she ordered Jay. What followed was unlike anything Jay had ever witnessed. Nari moved faster than seemed possible, her body almost blurring with speed. She dodged energy beams with preternatural reflexes, closing the distance to the first Mach soldier in seconds. Her weapon discharged a pulse of blue energy that shattered the alien's armor. A second pulse struck another Mach, sending it flying backward into a tree. The third Mach fired rapidly, forcing Nari to dive for cover. As she rolled, Jay saw her wound had reopened, purple blood staining her shirt. The Mach advanced, its weapon aimed at Nari's position. Without thinking, Jay grabbed a stone and hurled it with perfect accuracy, striking the alien's arm. Its shot went wide, giving Nari the opening she needed. She launched herself at the creature, her weapon connecting with its head in a flash of blue light. The Mach collapsed, its armor smoking. Silence fell over the forest. Nari stood among the fallen enemies, breathing heavily. She looked at Jai with new respect. You distracted it, she said. That was brave and foolish. Jay approached cautiously, medical instincts taking over as he noticed her bleeding wound. You're hurt. A minor concern, Nari dismissed, though she winced when she moved. More will come. These were merely scouts. They salvaged what they could from the Mach soldiers, including a communication device that Nari said might help them track enemy movements. As they continued their ascent toward the rocky ridge, Nari walked closer to Jay than before. "I owe you my life twice now," she said quietly. "Among the Tal, such a debt can never be fully repaid." "Friends don't keep score," Jay replied. Nari considered this new concept. "Friends," she repeated, testing the word. "Is that what we are?" Ja looked at the alien warrior woman walking beside him, her blue skin marked with battle and her eyes alert for danger. "Yes," he said simply. "I think we are." The mountain ridge provided temporary safety. From their vantage point, Jay and Nari could see the valley below, including the small town where Jay worked as a paramedic. Tiny lights moved through the forests, mock search parties expanding their hunt. "They're getting closer to the town," Jay said, lowering the binoculars. "Those people have no idea what's coming." Nari studied the mock communication device they had taken from the scouts. The main force remains in orbit, but they have deployed 12 more search units. Her face hardened. "This is no longer about capturing me. They are assessing your world for invasion. Can we warn anyone? The military? The government?" "Your weapons would be ineffective against their technology," Nari said. "But perhaps." She examined the parts salvaged from her crashed ship. "With these components and the mock device, I might be able to contact my fleet. The Tal could send reinforcements." They set up camp in a small cave, where Nari worked through the night connecting alien technology in ways Jay couldn't comprehend. Her fingers moved with precision, despite the cold that made Jay's hands shake. "If this works," she explained, "it will send a compressed data burst that the mock cannot detect. But the message will take time to reach my people." "How much time?" "At least 3 of your Earth days." Nari connected the final components. "We must survive until then." The device activated with a soft hum, lights flickering across its surface. Nari watched it intently, then nodded. Signal sent. That night, they shared the last of their food. The temperature dropped below freezing, and they huddled together near the cave entrance, watching distant lights move through the valley. "In 3 days, your people will come," Jai asked. "If they receive the message. If they consider Earth worth saving." Nari's voice was flat. "The Tal High Command does not make decisions based on sentiment." "But you're their commander. Doesn't that count for something?" "I am one warrior, replaceable." Nari looked at him. "But the data I carry about mock fleet movements is not. That they will come for." Before dawn, the mock device emitted a series of sharp tones. Nari checked it, her expression grim. "They have detected unusual energy readings from the town. They believe I am hiding there." She turned to Jai. "They will attack at daybreak." Jay stood immediately. "We have to warn them." "It would be tactically unsound," Nari argued. "Revealing ourselves. These are my people, Nari. My friends. I won't let them die." Something in his voice made Nari pause. "This is what your kind calls loyalty," she observed. "The Tal consider it a weakness, but..." She picked up her weapon. "Perhaps we have been wrong about many things." They descended the mountain rapidly, taking a treacherous path that would avoid mock patrols. Nari moved with natural agility, despite her wounds. Twice they had to hide as mock scouts passed nearby, their gray forms ghostly in the pre-dawn light. The town was quiet when they arrived, residents still asleep, unaware of the danger approaching. Jai headed straight for the fire station, which served as the emergency response center for the small community. The night dispatcher, Jun, was shocked to see Jay burst in with a blue-skinned woman in tow. Before he could speak, Nari activated the mock device, projecting an image of approaching ships. "Your town will be attacked within the hour," she stated bluntly. "These forces seek me, but they will not distinguish between combatants and non-combatants." To his credit, Jun asked only one question: "What do we do?" The evacuation began immediately. Emergency sirens blared across town. Nari helped Ja coordinate, her military experience proving invaluable as they organized transportation for the elderly and children first. Move them to the mines, Neri suggested. The deep shafts will shield them from mock sensors. As residents loaded into cars and buses, Neri pulled Jai aside. They will be here in minutes. You should go with your people. I'm staying, Jay said firmly. Neri studied his face. You cannot fight them effectively. Maybe not, Jay agreed. But I know this town better than anyone. I can help you set traps. The first mock ships appeared just as the last evacuation vehicles departed. 3 sleek, gray craft the size of buses descended toward the town center. Neri and Jay watched from the roof of the hospital. Their forces are still limited, Neri noted. They believe this is merely a capture operation. How do we use that against them? Neri's lips curved in a rare smile. We make them call for reinforcements. What followed was a masterclass in guerrilla tactics. Neri showed Jay how to use the town's resources against the technologically superior enemy. They'd rigged the gas station to explode when the first mock patrol investigated. They flooded streets with water from fire hydrants, then used the hospital's electrical cables to electrify them. The mock were methodical but unprepared for such primitive yet effective tactics. 4 of their soldiers fell to carefully planned traps before they realized the pattern. By midday, more ships arrived. A mock commander emerged, taller than the others, its gray skin marked with red symbols. It carried a weapon that made the air crackle with energy. They are escalating, Neri observed as they watched from hiding. Good. It means my plan is working. Which is? Force them to commit more resources. Every ship they bring to Earth is one less defending their fleet against my people when they arrive. The mock commander issued orders, and its forces began systematically destroying buildings. The library, the town hall, the elementary school, all reduced to rubble by precision energy weapons. They're trying to flush us out, Jay realized. Neri nodded. Now we move to phase 2. She led Jay to the water treatment plant at the edge of town. Using parts from the mock device and chemicals from the plant, Neri created what she called a resonance disruptor. Their communication systems operate on specific frequencies, she explained. This will create interference across their entire network. When activated, the device emitted a high-pitched whine. In the distance, they saw mock soldiers stumble, clutching their helmets. Now, Neri said, readying her weapon, while they're disoriented. They attacked the confused mock patrol, Neri moving with lethal efficiency, while Jay used a makeshift staff to target joint weaknesses she had taught him. Within minutes, 5 mock soldiers lay disabled. But their success was short-lived. The mock commander located the source of the disruption and fired a powerful blast at the water plant. The explosion threw Jai and Neri in opposite directions. When Jay regained consciousness, he found himself pinned under debris. Through blurry vision, he saw Neri engaged in combat with the mock commander, her movements slower than before, hampered by her reopened wounds. The commander fired its weapon. Neri dodged, but not quickly enough. The energy beam grazed her shoulder, sending her sprawling. The mock commander approached, weapon raised for a killing blow. With a surge of desperate strength, Jay freed himself and lunged forward, placing himself between Neri and the alien. No, he shouted, arms spread wide. You want her, you go through me first. The mock commander paused, its faceless helmet tilting as if puzzled by this unexpected development. Behind Jay, Neri whispered, move, human. This is not your battle to lose. Yes, it is, Jay replied without turning. It became mine the moment you crashed in my forest. The mock raised its weapon again. Jay closed his eyes, bracing for impact. Instead, a brilliant light flooded the sky. Looking up, Jay saw new ships entering the atmosphere, sleek, blue vessels that moved with incredible speed and precision. Unlike the angular mock craft, these ships were curved and elegant, their hulls shimmering with the same iridescent quality as Neri's skin. The tall, Nari breathed, rising to her feet. They received my message. The mock commander fired at the new arrivals, but its weapons seemed ineffective against their shields. The tall ships responded with concentrated energy beams that sliced through mock vessels with surgical precision. As the battle raged above them, Nari turned to Ja, her expression a mixture of pain and something he couldn't quite name. "You would have died to protect me," she said, her voice soft despite the chaos around them. "That's what friends do," Jay replied simply. For once, Nari had no logical response. The Tal fleet made short work of the mock forces. Their sleek ships moved with deadly precision, eliminating enemy vessels without damaging the surrounding landscape. Within hours, the sky above the small town was clear of all but a few tall ships, hovering like silent guardians. Jay helped tend to those injured in the attack. The town's residents had begun returning cautiously from the mines, staring up at the alien vessels with a mixture of fear and wonder. Nari worked alongside Ja, her medical knowledge surprisingly extensive once she explained how commanders were trained in emergency care for their soldiers. "Your people seem to know what they're doing," Jay observed, watching tall teams methodically removing mock technology from the damaged buildings. "The Tal have fought the mock for generations," Nari replied. "We understand their methods well." A beam of light descended from the largest tall ship, touching down in the town square. Within the light appeared 3 figures. They were clearly of Nari's species, with the same blue skin and silver markings, but their armor was more elaborate, adorned with symbols of rank. The tallest wore a cloak that shimmered like liquid metal. Nari straightened her posture. "The High Command," she whispered to Jai. "They rarely leave their ships." She approached the figures and dropped to one knee, head bowed. Words flowed from her in a musical language that Jay couldn't understand. The tallest Tal responded, gesturing to the town, then to the sky. Though Jay couldn't comprehend the words, the dismissive tone was unmistakable. Nari spoke again, more forcefully this time, pointing back at Ja. The High Commander's posture stiffened. The conversation continued, growing more intense until Nari finally rose to her feet, standing eye to eye with her superior. After a tense moment, the commander nodded once. Nari returned to Jay's side, her expression unreadable. "What was that about?" Jay asked. "They wished to extract me and leave immediately," Nari explained. "The mock presence here was larger than expected. The High Command considers Earth strategically significant, but technologically unready for official contact. So they're just leaving. After all this destruction." "No." Nari's lips curved slightly. "I reminded them of certain tall principles regarding honorable conduct. I also informed them that without your assistance, the critical data I carry would be in mock hands." One of the Tal officers approached, carrying a small metallic cube. He handed it to Nari with a formal bow, then returned to the others. "What's that?" Jay asked. "A data core." Nari studied the cube. "It contains medical and technological information. A gift for your people." "That's generous," Jay said, surprised. "It is practical," Nari corrected. "The Tal prefer capable allies. This will help your world prepare for future encounters." The following days passed in a blur of activity. The Tal provided advanced medical treatment to the injured townspeople. Their technology accelerated healing and left no scars, amazing the local doctors. They also helped repair critical infrastructure, though they carefully limited the technological assistance to levels just slightly beyond Earth's current capabilities. Government officials arrived, wide-eyed at the alien presence. Nari served as liaison, her translator device facilitating communication. Jad watched with pride as she skillfully navigated human politics, showing more patience than he had ever seen from her. On the 3rd evening, as Jay sat on the steps of his partially rebuilt home, Nari joined him. She wore the formal Tal armor provided by her people, her commander's insignia prominently displayed. "The fleet departs tomorrow," she said without preamble. "The mock have been driven from this sector." Jay nodded, his chest tightening unexpectedly. "I figured you'd be leaving soon. The High Command has assigned me a new mission." Neri looked at the stars appearing in the twilight sky. "They believe Earth requires observation and protection as it develops." "You mean they're going to spy on us?" Jay frowned. "No." Neri turned to face him directly. "I am to serve as the first Tal ambassador to Earth, a permanent position." Jay stared at her, processing her words. "You're staying?" "If that is acceptable." For the first time since he'd known her, Neri seemed uncertain. "Your dwelling has sufficient space for two, and I have grown accustomed to your cooking." A smile spread across Jay's face. "That's your way of asking if you can live here?" "It would be tactically sound," Neri replied, though a hint of purple colored her blue cheeks. "For the mission." "Of course," Jay agreed, hiding his own smile. "For the mission." The next morning, the Tal fleet gathered above the town for a ceremony. The residents watched in awe as Neri stood before the High Commander in the town square. The commander presented her with a ceremonial weapon and spoke formal words in the Tal language. Neri then turned to Jai, who stood awkwardly nearby, and beckoned him forward. "Among my people," she explained loud enough for all to hear, "a life debt is our most sacred bond." She removed a small silver emblem from her armor and placed it in Jay's palm. "Twice you saved me when you had no obligation to do so. By the ancient laws of the Tal, I pledge my protection to you and your world until my final breath." The formality of her words didn't match the warmth in her eyes. Jay closed his fingers around the emblem, feeling its slight vibration against his skin. "Thank you," he said simply, knowing no grander words were needed between them. After the Tal fleet departed, life in the town slowly returned to a new normal. The presence of a blue-skinned alien warrior caused a sensation at first, but the townspeople gradually accepted Neri, especially after she helped rebuild the elementary school with materials that would coincidentally withstand even the strongest tornadoes. Government officials came and went, debriefing both Jai and Neri about the mock attack and establishing protocols for future contact with the Tal. Neri handled these meetings with surprising diplomacy, revealing a side of herself Jai hadn't seen during their desperate days on the run. One quiet evening, they sat on Jay's porch swing, watching fireflies dance above the garden Neri had insisted on planting. She had developed a fascination with Earth's plant life, meticulously cataloging each species. "Your world has such diversity," she remarked, watching a hummingbird hover near the flowers. "On Talora, biological variation was engineered out centuries ago. Efficiency was prioritized over beauty." "Do you miss it?" Jai asked. "Your home world?" Neri considered the question with characteristic thoughtfulness. "I miss certain aspects. The crystal spires of the capital. The precision of Tal society." She looked at Jai. "But I have discovered that there is much I never experienced there." "Like what?" "Choice," she said simply. "On Talora, my path was determined before birth. Commander, warrior, servant of the collective." She touched a flower gently. "Here, I am still those things, but also more." Jay smiled. "Like a gardener?" "Yes, and a cook, though you claim my attempts are creative." She used air quotes, a human gesture she had recently adopted. "And a friend." The word hung between them, filled with meaning beyond its simple sound. Jay reached out hesitantly, covering her blue hand with his. Her skin was warmer than a human's, with a slight vibration like distant music. "I'm glad you crashed in my forest," he admitted. Neri's formal demeanor softened. "As am I, though it was tactically unsound at the time. Sometimes the best things happen from accidents." "Not accidents," Neri corrected. "The Tal have a concept called path intersection, when two beings whose lives should meet find each other despite astronomical odds. We just call that fate," Jay said. Neri considered this. A simpler term. Efficient. Her lips curved in the smile that had once been so rare. "I approve." Above them, A shooting star traced a path across the darkening sky. Once, Jay would have made a wish. Now, watching the starlight reflect in Neri's violet eyes, he realized his wish had already been granted in the most unexpected way imaginable. "I owe you my life, human," Neri had said when they first met. But sitting beside her as night fell over their shared home, Jay knew they had both found something worth far more than any debt of honor. They had found belonging.